Is it possible to become obsessed with the idea of healthy eating to the point it actually becomes detrimental to us? Now, that's kind of an interesting question. And by the way, it's not me who is asking this. It's actually the Mayo Clinic who is asking this very question. About 10 years ago, they have coined a new phrase, orthorexiphobia. Orthorexiphobia, that's the proper way to say it. And according to them, it literally means an unhealthy obsession with healthy eating. Now, what on earth does that mean? And I believe I can lend a little bit of clarity to this. What the Mayo Clinic is essentially saying is that here in the United States, we have become obsessed with dieting, with all these nutritional studies. We are obsessed with the idea of eating healthfully, with the idea of living healthfully without actually implementing any of these healthy changes in our lives. That is why it's become unhealthy. And just to further illustrate the point, I'll use an illustration from my own experience. Several years ago, I was actually standing in a Mexican restaurant. I was very hungry, and I was awaiting a burrito to be made. Standing in line, minding my own business, when all of a sudden this obnoxious individual walks up to me, without any solicitation on my part, by the way, and begins to lecture me about how bad the tofu was that I was preparing to eat, because I had tofu in my burrito. I didn't ask for his opinion whatsoever, but he just continued to bray on and on and on about how bad it was for me, how it was going to render my upper body saggy, all while he was simultaneously yelling at the employee to make sure they put plenty of steak into his burrito, as if steak was so much better for you than tofu. Now, the problem my ignorant friend had was there is actually, believe it or not, some studies out there published by some rather shoddy individuals, frankly, who have basically said that tofu was bad and evil for you. And believe it or not, there are some people who purport this idea that it will make your upper body saggy, none of which is true. But this is precisely what the Mayo Clinic has said. Now, what's very interesting about this ignorant individual in the Mexican restaurant is he knew all about how bad tofu was. He clearly had no idea how bad the steak actually was, because I'm assuming if you're here, you probably know about the issues with processed meat these days. It's not good. There's all kinds of hormones, antibiotics, and terrible things they put into it, none of which he seemed to know about. This is what the Mayo Clinic is talking about. You're so obsessed with the idea. We know all about these of superfoods from the Amazon, the magical elixir of life, straight out of the Philippines or something. I've seen that, okay? All kinds of wild health claims from different people. We know all about these mysterious brand new nutrient supplements, and yet, despite all of this, we're not healthy because we're not paying attention to the most simple bit of wisdom out there. Simply eating healthily, eating a whole foods, plant-based diet. Here's something interesting I would like to point out for you. Just yesterday on CNN, they have republished a report from the Journal of American Medical Association, who have now said after a 30-year study encompassing 100,000 people, they can say unequivocally that a whole foods, plant-based diet, their words, not mine, can dramatically decrease the risk of early death. 30-year study, 100,000 participants, that's what they found out. And that's what we really need to implement here in the United States. And I don't want you to just hear this and think, oh, well, that's nice to know, without implementing that change in your life. Remember, that's what the Mayo Clinic is saying. We love to hear about this, we love to read about it, but we don't put the change in our own lives. And so we're as unhealthy as ever for that very reason. So don't be like those people. Don't be that person. Remember, you've got to implement this change, and it's very simple. It's not as hard as you think. And so you can live a happier, healthier life.